Charlie Vann here, back from home again with another episode of the Charlie Vann Here podcast. On this episode, I chat with voice actor Billy West. He has voiced some very popular characters that if you also grew up in the 90s, you might have recognized, like Doug Funny from the Nickelodeon show Doug, Bugs Bunny on Space Jam, and he was Philip J. Fry and Dr. Zoidberg, Professor Farnsworth, and Zach Brannigan on the hit show Futurama. So it was a fun chat. Also, my good friend and producer Bryant Varnell helped chime in on this conversation as well. But we hope you enjoy it. Check it out. Here is Billy West.
Billy, thank you for taking your time here today. How have you been holding up with, I know this is, tough times, strained times, but how are you taking everything going on right now?
I don't know. I'm a belt and suspenders kind of guy. I wear the mask and I wear the gloves. Not in the house, but, if I have to go out. But, you can get COVID-19 by just thinking about not wanting to get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
right.
That's very true. Well, I think, one thing, and not to make this all about COVID, but I think it's a good point. You made a good point right there. It's just kind of the stress too. So while there is this pandemic going on, it's you also got to stay positive and not
That's
be
right.
too paranoid and find pleasures. And this is a time where, you hear a lot of people talk about, well, I'm binge watching this or watching that. And that's good. Like taking your mind off of all the negativity. I know you're a musician as well. How are you taking this time to do a lot more music as, during this time to kind of take your mind off of everything?
No, you would think, but I'm doing a lot of writing, because I'm thinking about doing a book.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
And that keeps me a little occupied. But I think the thing you're talking about, trying to find something to take your mind off of stuff, I think the ultimate goal is try to find peace with all of this stuff, so you can get your mind around it. Otherwise, it's like a series of darts coming at you every single morning when you wake up. You go to find out what's going on, and it's like,
with with world of voiceover, how have more projects been coming remotely? Like, do you do a lot more nowadays, like from home, or you kind of split the time between project in studio and then doing your own thing from home?
No, we haven't set foot in a studio for about a month. I've been doing commercials out of my house, and I've been doing Disenchantment out of the house, for Matt Groening and those guys.
During this time, have you found, you're talking about writing your own book. How important do you think it is, like definitely during this, to really take this time to work on craft, work on projects instead of, you see people just spending this negative energy, just going back and forth, sometimes back and forth with fans and trolls on social media?
Mm-hmm. I guess, I don't know. Social media is such a weird animal. Sometimes it becomes a single-celled animal. It's like all you have to do is say something and somebody will attack you. Even when there's no response required from anybody, you'll say something and somebody will take umbrage with you or try to start some shit with you. I think it's very funny. I just think it's fun to watch somebody tie themselves up in knots, and not get paid for it.
It's almost like, it's like they want to try to get a rouse out of you, because like, oh, you're going to, this person, Billy West is, commented on my post, but it's also, you're kind of like, what are they doing with their lives that they got to take?
It's ridiculous. There's no money in it. There's no future in it. You're only as good as your last stupid post.
Yeah.
Every second of the opening night.
It's just so it's kind of so toxic. I was actually thinking about this, and referring to one of your characters. By the way, I big Futurama fan, and when I heard that we were getting to speak with you, I mean, Brian could tell you I was jumping up and down because both of us were kids in the 90s, and Doug Funny, which I think is one of the most relatable characters that was on TV.
An 11-and-a-half-year-old, sort of tweener, and this is my dog Pork Chop. Oh, here comes loser. I'm running for office, so vote for this.
We could use some more Doug Funny. We could use an older Doug Funny today. We could use that positive, like, push forward and friends. Like, we could use that.
I had this scenario about if Doug grew up and, he was like among us.
Dear Journal, today I blew up a courthouse. Oh, oh no. Okay, Funny, guess who's presiding over this courtroom? Judge Roger Klotz. Oh no. Go to jail. You're going to jail. You're guilty. It's written all over your face and it's even spelled wrong.
You know who my favorite character in Futurama is? Nixon.
Oh, Nixon.
I love the head of Nixon. That's who I like up because I actually got into Futurama more than I got than The Simpsons. I don't know. I just think when Futurama had a lot of pop culture stuff in it, like when they did the Star Trek episode and all that, and I'm a sci-fi person in general.
Yes. So
and the characters you did too, especially with the sad passing of Phil Hartman and everything, and how you paid homage to him on that show with his.
I did, but I did know him a little bit before that awful thing happened to him. But he called me up. This is an example of what an upright guy Phil Hartman was. When I lived in New York City, he called me up on the phone. I have no idea how he got my number. I guess it was somebody on the set of News Radio had my phone number. So I call in. I'm driving home from Manhattan. I'm going out to Westchester. I call my wife, and she said, guess who just called here looking for you? I said, who? She said, Phil Hartman. And I start going, yeah, sure. You know how many people I know that are capable of pulling an intricate joke like that? All I know are voice people. And she said, no, it was him, and he left a number, and he wants you to call him. And he wanted me to call him just to say he was a fan of mine. Man. I mean, and he said, you know what, you should move from New York. You got to come out to Los Angeles. That's where all the real work is for somebody like you. I'll help you get acclimated. He even offered that much. I mean, what a generosity of spirit.
I mean, he growing up, I mean, he was one of the guys that I really focused on when it came to comedy, because he did seem, even like when you see the behind the scenes of like him on set and stuff like that, he's always laughing, he's cheerful. And everybody, from watching like behind the scenes of like Small Soldiers and stuff like that, and hearing Joe Dante talk about him, and seeing outtakes. I mean, he seemed like, and he was so talented. Like, he was a graphic artist too. He was such a
he was in advertising, so that's where he had that whole 60s ad man kind of voice when he put it on. It's like, friends, you know what you and I really need is a good cup of coffee. Stuff like that.
He was like those guys, like the Bob Hope and Jack Benny type guys.
Well, that's when he cut his teeth on that material. People today, I don't know who you would hold up as an example as to the standard by which all others will be judged. It happens to every generation.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you kind of look back now and you're like, who's going to be the comedy influencers of today?
I don't know.
Who's going to be the like? How you can always say like Bob Hope. You can always track down people back to that style of comedy. You know,
I don't know. I don't know what's funny. You know, it's like I think something really, really, really funny is going to come along and replace comedy. I don't know what it is, but
well, it's always different. I mean, you're saying you're going to write a book. Are you going to talk about Larry Fiennes?
oh sure.
See, I have actually a Larry Fiennes plush in my office.
You're kidding me.
No, I saw it in a claw machine. I said I got to have it, and so I have it in my office. It was the when he's wearing the football outfit from their short.
Oh, right. Yes. You know who was in that episode of the Stooges when they were playing football? There was this mobster that was after them, and that was in the 1932 or something. Mm-hmm. And you know who was in it? A very, very young Lucille Ball. She had to be.
Was that around the time she made Room Service with the Marx Brothers, or
probably? And she was schooled by Buster Keaton. There's a name. I don't know if it means anything to anybody. But
Buster Keaton, you mean the very first stuntman, pretty much? I mean,
yeah, but he was so brilliant. I mean, you could pick. It's like whoever suits your taste. It's like it could be Chaplin, it could be Buster Keaton, or there was the third genius. A lot of people don't know about him. His name was Harold Lloyd.
Yep, Harold Lloyd.
And what comes to mind, the image that comes to mind, I think a lot of your listeners would remember. There's this old photo. It's from the 30s, but it's a still from a movie Harold Lloyd made, and he's hanging off a building by one of the sweep hands of a clock.
Yep.
Yeah, that's guy with little glasses, and
he was missing fingers too. That's the other thing. Yeah,
he was. Well, he blew off his own fingers doing a stunt. I mean, I gotta respect a guy that's willing to blow off his hand for art.
I mean, those guys. I mean, that's when filmmaking was real.
Yeah.
When Buster Keaton's on that train.
Yes.
If he missed when he had that piece of wood, that if he had missed that mark just 1 second. If he had not been under that window, if he had not been right under that window, that exact moment that house fell. I mean,
yeah, you should recommend, on YouTube, Buster Keaton stuff for people who are curious about what the hell we're talking about.
Oh, I know. Well, I'm an old fogey at
Brian's he knows a lot of the classics.
Well, my dad introduced me to a lot of them. I mean, he introduced me to Abbott and Costello and the Marx Brothers and the Stooges. And Laurel and Hardy right from the bat. So I mean, that's where I started as a kid. That's where I learned comedy from, and then went to Mel Brooks and a little bit of Cheech and Chong and stuff like that.
Right. Well, when I was a kid in the 50s, all of that stuff happened 20 years before I was born. You know what I mean? It's like it not only stood the test of time back then, but all the way to 2020. Mm-hmm. I was well aware of the Marx Brothers and the Three Stooges, especially because Columbia showed them on TV all the time. Those shorts were long gone, and those opened up for movies. And what happened was that's why cartoons from those days became popular, because it was postmodernism. It's like some of those Bugs Bunny cartoons and others outlived the movie they opened up for, and it became postmodern art.
That must have been crazy for you to have been a kid watching the Stooges and Bugs Bunny, and then for yourself to one day be, Larry Fine and be Bugs Bunny. I mean, that must be insane.
Well, that was full circle. That was, when I was a little kid, my world was a sonic world. I just used to listen to sound, and it used to trip me out. It didn't matter if somebody was speaking or if there was a jackhammer. It's like it all triggered me to move in this direction. I had no idea that was going to happen.
When did you find your love also for music? Did it come along the same time as animation or acting?
Let's see. Well, I was a freak when I was a kid. I mean, even before I was aware of much of anything, I would take an implement from the kitchen, like a potato masher, and just stand it up on its business end, and then the handle would stick up, and I would use it as a microphone, like looking out the window and doing color. Well, it's beginning to snow. Well, I probably sound well, it's beginning to snow.
We wish we could have said that here in Texas as kids. There's not many snow days here, unfortunately. There's a lot of heat, though.
Yeah. But I mean, that's where I started. I was compelled I was gravitated to those things. Watching television, television when it was in its infancy. And then the movies that were made 20 years before I was born, movies were in their infancy. I got a lot of mileage on me. I've gotten to work or meet a lot of my idols. Strangely enough, Sid Caesar show, my mom would let me stay up and we watched shows. Thank God she did that, because that stuff blew me apart molecularly. I was just never the same after I saw some of these performers. And then, as fate would have it, the years whiz by and the calendar pages fly all over the place. And then one day you're sitting next to the guy working with him. That's a mind blower. And you know what they usually say to me when I talk about how you influenced me so much? God bless you, and I'm so honored. And he said, well, we were saving a seed for you.
They could do an accent or a character right on a dime. They were talented.
Yeah, then I became that guy.
Exactly. As I'm saying, there we go. Larry Fine, Bugs Bunny, and then Jonathan Winters right there. That's...
Yeah. We'll talk about that experience. Just, such an iconic character in Bugs Bunny. Just reliving that experience when you're notified that you're going to be the next guy, the next actor to play this legendary character.
I said to myself, all the best work was done before any of us were born. Mm-hmm. And when they come along with a new classic character project, I'm pleased. It makes me happy to be able to replicate it and try to hold up the franchise. But all those choices that a performer makes, they're not my choices. I have to replicate like what Mel Blanc would do, with lines that Bugs Bunny never said, because it's a modern day script. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad that people enjoyed it and everything. But I always preferred to do original characters. Like if someone showed me a picture of a character and gave me a description of what they're about, what voice would you do? And I would have to think long and hard before I opened my mouth, because I wanted it to be for the ages. I didn't want to have throwaway characters. Like Zoidberg, he was a combination. I used to cold fuse voices with different personalities and have a combination of both, like super collide them. And there were two people that were, they had an effect on me. One was a marble-mouthed guy named George Jessel. He was brilliant, and he was a comedian. And a lot of people just didn't appreciate him until later on. But he was the guy that would go, ladies and germs. And I guess they thought that was funny back then. And then there was a guy named Lou Jacoby who came out of Yiddish theater, and he was the guy that leaned into Dudley Moore, Arthur, and go, what's it like to have all that money? And so I took those two voices and smashed them together, and that became Zoidberg.
I want to ask, because we talked about Bugs and with Space Jam, and recently, I don't know if you saw the documentary, but of course, Michael Jordan's Last Dance, and they show a little bit behind the scenes of Space Jam. But there's the famous Game 7 where he had food poisoning and he still dug deep and played and had a great game. Was there ever a moment where you're on set recording where you just did not feel that great, but you're like, I got to push forward, and you felt like it was one of your best performances?
I don't know. It's tough to look back for me, because I'm hypercritical of myself. To me, it's very surreal. One day when I found my voice was coming out of TV sets and movie theaters and radio, It's very surreal to me because I can't dote on it too much because I'll turn inside out thinking, could have done it better. Oh, how could I have done it that way? I could do it so much better. But you got to give birth to something. It's the artist's way, self-sabotage.
Do you have any recording routines for your voice, your throat, or anything like that to kind of help you? Especially if you feel like you're coming down with anything, but you're like, I got to do this project today.
I never much got into that. I remember later on in my career, I met a guy that was a voice builder. He wasn't a teacher, but he would give you exercises to do to open up your throat because everybody has muscles around their throat, but they're never used. So they get lazy, and that's why you blow your voice out. It's not the vocal cords, it's the muscles that aren't strong enough to hop to when it's time to perform stuff, especially big and yelling stuff. So there's exercises that strengthen those muscles and it opens up your throat.
And also, I want to ask you, because you started off also, you had experience in radio. Well, now with podcasting, what's your thoughts on the podcast world and kind of the future of that? And do you think with voiceover, that's all going to kind of merge together? Because now, like, people from home, not only are they doing podcasts, but they have, like the Blue Yeti mics. Some of them have their own editing software. So what's your thoughts over just the moving forward of this technology now?
Well, I don't want to see the death of expertise because it's anyone's game, but I think you should always strive for excellence, even if it comes out raw and it doesn't hit the mark of what you had in mind for your own professional standards. I love it that TV is being done out of everybody's house, and I enjoy it. And I also enjoy podcasts. I never liked anything that was too stainless and clinical. And that made it soulless for me. The kind of stuff I grew up with, the disc jockeys, it's like, who talks like this? But I could do it. All the guys that were cannon saying, what things has got to come out, and that's what rock and roll is all about. And we got some friends here. Let's eat this slop. 1958, Mr. Roy Orbison on CBS 101. Hello, love. That's what I grew up with. And I said to myself, who the hell talks like this?
Well, is it also even
appeared phonier and phonier as the years went by when people wanted to hear somebody who talked like them?
Kind of talk about the business of being a voice actor. You just starred in Scoob as Muttley.
Yeah.
And Frank Welker's in there, and of course he, took over as Scooby-Doo the last few years. And the rest of them, of the cast, is made out of celebrities, even though there is a Wacky Racer television show.
Right.
The voice actor voicing, Dick Dastardly. But in the movie they got, was it Jason Isaac from Harry Potter?
I can't keep track of it.
So and even Matthew Lillard. I mean, he plays he made Shaggy on the new Scooby-Doo show, but they got Will Forte. Do you think that way of with these animated movies where there's roles that a voice actor could do, but it's given to an A-list celebrity, instead of that, just part of the business? I've had the chance to ask it to other voice actors as well, so I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Well, I used to. You really want to bring that mountain down on yourself, huh?
We're getting real, Billy. We're getting real.
Years ago, I said this invasion of animation by celebrities. I said it kills me because there are people that can do anything a director asks them.
Yeah.
Okay, can you sound like a girl? Yeah, sure. Can you sound like an old Russian guy? Yeah, sure. And yet they'll go with a celebrity who has their one great and glorious voice that they use for whatever project happens. And I said, I just have a problem with that. It's like, they're highly skilled. It's like sending a bunch of highly skilled plumbers to win the World Series for you.
Yeah. Or sending
which could happen because we don't have baseball right now.
Was it construction crew to go to a space station to destroy an asteroid kind of scenario?
Yeah, it's like CGI movies that were coming out left and right were making more money than live action movies. And I said, this is awful. They're going to lose their precious star system.
Yeah.
If there's no more live action movies and they want to do all CGI, so of course they got to cast celebrities in there because what else are they going to do?
And see, that kind of, when I watch something like, let's say, like, Disney's Aladdin,
Yeah.
the only, name star in that movie that you can off the top of your head is Robin Williams. And the rest they're actors as well, but they're not A-listers.
It's just that super talent intimidates people. I've worked with many celebrities, big names from the old days and from the new days. And after they sit in a cartoon session, if they're honest about it, they usually look up and go, "Oh my God, I had no idea," because they're used to doing them and assuming roles and everything, but they never had to, act like they weren't a prisoner of their own voice.
Mm-hmm.
If you were a voice actor, but if you're a celebrity, I mean, it's just unusual if they can do anything beyond like 2 or 3 voices of some kind, like, "Hey, wait for me," I don't know.
I think one of the actors that stands out to me that could go, and he's done voice acting as well, and I think he's also A-lib celebrity, like Bill Hader.
Yes.
I feel like he could do both because he has that range.
Yes. Robin Williams was an actor, but he had the most versatile damn voice.
Yeah.
So that's what I hoped would happen. That they'd find these firebrands, or at least people would try to rise to the occasion if they were given an animated assignment. But it's like, it's their name that puts asses in the seats. It's not their voice so much,
Confuse me how a show with voice actors can be a hit, but they're like, oh, but that can't transition to a movie. You're not seeing the actor's face. You're not seeing Justin Timberlake's face in Trolls. I mean, even Justin Timberlake playing Boo Boo in Yogi Bear, he's not even doing Justin Timberlake. He's just doing a Boo Boo voice.
Yes. Well, some people have that proclivity to be able to come close or do some sort of approximation that's not their voice. I don't know. I mean, it's just, to me, it's anybody's game. It means it's a free-for-all. Like, if everybody uses auto-tune and you don't, you're odd man out. And that makes the art no good to me anymore. I have no interest in it.
Well, I gotta say, you've played some like great iconic characters, and especially like we said, growing up in the '90s, so many memorable characters, and I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but but is there a character that, I mean, every day that you kind of live with it? If you're talking out loud, you may talk out loud in his voice just because he's so a part of you.
I think my natural voice, well, yeah, because when they wanted me to do Philip J. Fry, I decided I was going to go with this bland, vanilla, 25-year-old version of myself. Because I remember what I talked like. I was all whiny and nasally, and I played in a band, and I'd be like, "Oh, man, I broke a string. Now what am I supposed to do?" That was me at 25.
Delivery boy? Did you ever have to deliver? You were?
I think for a brief time I might have been a delivery boy.
I wonder if today, if Fry was real, if he would be driving for Favor or be Uber. I think he'd be a fun Uber driver just because he's so personal.
I don't think he could be trusted with like a high-powered job.
I was going to say, he may fall asleep at that as well,
Well,
I don't know. I've had some Uber, some Lyft drivers.
I mean, I have it. I couldn't stay interested in anything for very long. And I also was high on the autistic spectrum. And so, you process everything very differently. And I thought, Fry, he's not as stupid as he is, like, unknowing or unaware. But he processes things in a very awkward way. But makes it makes the journey.
Well, that show is, I love that show. It's top one of my favorite animated series. And I'll tell you one episode that really gets me every time is the Jurassic Park, that ending with his dog.
I know. I recorded it. I read it and I recorded it, and I knew it was going to be sad, but I didn't know how sad. And I saw it on television, and I was misting. My eyes were watering because I think I know what it is everybody knows what it's like to bond with an animal. Mm-hmm. And, you want them to live as long as you do, and they don't. But the twist in this was that dog was willing to wait forever, having no idea that it would ever get old, or didn't want to move. It's that dynamic, like when some owner dies and the pet won't leave the gravesite. The pet just will sit there and wait. I think that was the dynamic in that.
Yeah, it's got to be one of the more emotional scenes, especially in an animated series. And like you said, I mean, everybody knows most a lot that's had a dog or a cat or any pet, and those dogs, that strong companionship is just, it gets you. It gets you. It's hard not to cry or at least tear up watching that.
I mean, there's nothing you wouldn't do for that pet. They just make us better than we are, those animals.
Well, I sometimes say, animals are better sometimes than humans, especially, their pets. I mean, just the care, the endless love.
No, I come in the house and I go, I only wish I was half the man that cat thought I was.
Yeah. Like, that show had a lot of good relatable, a lot of relatable characters, topics. I just wonder, maybe now with, we're not seeing baseball quite yet, but I do love the Blurns Ball episode, and maybe this is a chance to reevaluate. And I like baseball, but it does have its criticism for how long it is and that. But if they maybe can reevaluate, maybe we can get some Blurns Ball, even just for fun.
I don't know. They could do stuff like that. They could have a Blurns Ball game with all the Futurama characters. They could do it audio.
Yeah, didn't they just do the Blacklist? I heard they did a whole animated episode of the Blacklist.
Oh, I didn't hear about that, but I get where they're going with it. I know that's a great idea to do that. I mean, you might as well be constantly breaking a fourth wall or two if you can, because art needs that.
Brian and I were so excited to chat with you. Big fans here, and always love your work.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
This is like how you were talking about Sid Caesar and Jonathan Winters. This is when I met you that first time at the Dallas Comic Book Show. That's what it was like for me, and that's how it is right now. Being able to talk to you about this stuff, because you don't
know how honored I am, how honored I feel with that.
Billy, I want to thank you again for taking your time this afternoon here with us once again.
Well, thank you guys. Stay inspired, stay passionate, no matter what's going on in the world.
Thank you again to Billy West for taking the time to chat with Brian and I. It was a lot of fun. If you liked the episode, please share it. Please subscribe. Well, until next time, thank you and stay safe.